This time on Captain Cash's Laboratory, we're going to be working on the Christmas Grove Skating Rink by Lemax. This is a very large set as far as the pieces go. There's more skaters. I think there's like 7 or 8 more of these guys go around the rink. And of course the trees come off. And then we have characters inside, which apparently move because they have the holes in the base where these will probably turn back and forth. So, but it's plugged in. Nothing. No lights, no sound, no nothing. So, probably a bad motor. So, I'm going to take these characters back off, just so you can tell they're on their magnets, so you don't think that I just didn't place them right. Set them out of the way. I'm going to take the trees off. These are also held on with magnets and have the same contactor as some of the misting systems for the people that have the Christmas or Halloween pieces that have a mister. They use the same contact transfer with the same magnet set up to hold the cap on, as an example, on the top of the chimney. So it's a thing that's been around for a while. So, alright, let's unplug it. And take a look at the bottom. So here's the bottom. It looks like our access point is going to be underneath the 8 pads. So, a screwdriver. Use the point of the X-Acto knife to pry these out. Yep, there's screws under there. So. This piece is all plastic, in case you were wondering. A lot of the skating rinks are plastic, just because of how they work. If they were porcelain, they'd weigh a ton, and it would be a pain to assemble at the factory and a pain to repair out of the factory. There's all 8 of them. Normally when there's no noise, no humming, no nothing, it's either normally it's a bad motor. It could be a broken wire. Maybe the power wire has broke. The negative wire has broke. I've seen that before. It's not as common. Last one. There we go. Wow, look at all that. It's all up in here too. And there's our mechanism. And this is the micro switch that turns it off and on. You can tell this isn't where it's supposed to be. This may have been turned off without it being reset, or it died while it was in motion. So I'm going to set this slip plate out of the way. And I'm going to unplug the motor because this one's nice. It has Molex connectors. That's the motor. And let's plug it back in. There's the lights. There we go. If I turn it off, well, if you can still see those lights in there or not, and that's because it needs that. So that is the off. So like the Swan Boat ride, if you watch that one of these has an arm, a little protrusion at the bottom. Looks like it's going to be this one, because this one's cut and this one's cut and this one's not. Then we come over here and go click and turn it off. And just like the Swan Boat ride, I do not see a purpose in why this needs to be turned off with a micro switch. Is there a point at all that it needs to reset to a 0 point? It just spins in a circle. So this belt's grinding itself apart. So we just spin like this. And then when this arm gets over there, which is going to take forever, spin it faster. Or the lights and sound should stop. Well, the sound is already off. There we go. So the lights should stop. You could make it more cluttered if you wanted. All these open holes are for more magnets. And here we go. It should engage that switch. And click. The lights are off. So, micro switch is working. Circuit board is doing its thing. We just got a bad motor. Well, we're going to unplug the power. Pop out our screwdriver. Let's take off this top plate, which is held on with 4 screws. And we can also check the gears. Gears felt fine. You know, if I was spinning the top pulley and the gears were bad, I would feel a click or a clack or a clunk. Kind of like Dr. Seuss right there. While I'm rotating it, when it would hit a bad tooth. So, I believe all we have is just a bad motor. Motor is, it should be a 14, or it should be 11,440 SRF 300 CA. Have one right. Yeah. So there's the new motor. Let's get this old motor out. Same thing I repeat every single time. Don't lose the screws. Let's clean off this plate so there's no more powder on it. And just like all of them, this motor is full of grease. There's oil all on the face and the sides. It's oily, and that is why it has failed. So there we go. We need the pulley, and we get rid of the motor. And we grab some paper towel to clean off the rest of the grease and clean up that pulley. The 10 tooth here looks beautiful. mentioned this before. I mentioned it again. Gears need to be lubricated. Motors do not. Belts do not. Do not get any lubrication on your belt because it'll slip. And don't get any lubrication on your motor because it'll fail. Motors are dry. They don't take anything internally to make them spin. Grab some heat shrink so we can heat shrink it back together. If you don't have heat shrink, electrical tape, regular tape, glue, rubber contact cement, so on and so forth. Just something to isolate the wires so they don't touch each other. And then also, so it helps with a bond. So if you don't have solder either, you can twist the wires together and then tape them or crimp them. And then 99% of the time, black and black go together and red go together. But there are some pieces, for some reason, that when you twist the black and the red together, the motor spins the opposite direction. Probably because it was a different manufacturer that labeled their positive and negative differently. So you can always check it before you stick it in permanently. I am going to check it. I'm just going to solder the wires together so I know that I have a good connection. And if they're wrong, I can just desolder them, switch the wires, and then put the heat shrink on. Just for testing, I'm going to use the original belt. I am going to replace the belt. But I'm going to put this on. I'm going to run a couple of screws just to hold it so it doesn't twist. And then I want to make sure this is spinning in the right direction. And if it's spinning in the right direction, then we'll be good to go. Then we'll put it back together with a new belt and heat shrink the connections on. Belt's still springy, it's just shredding. the right way, and then I'll turn it off. And when this arm gets there with the 3 magnets, it'll turn off. Like that. So now I'm going to run the heat shrink up. You can use a heat source from a heat gun, a cigarette lighter, a match, a hairdryer, just to shrink it down real quick. For small things like this, I just use a lighter. It takes just a matter of a second, as you see. I am going to have to, this was hot glued right in here. I'm going to have to hot glue it again. 1, because the wires are longer now, and 2, so it doesn't interfere with the gears. Now we'll just open a new package. That's what I mean about the hot glue. That's why the wires are hot glued down. Alright. Stay away. So, I mean, if you had some other Christmas magnetic figurines from a different piece that you lost or broke, you could buy these neodymium magnets off of Amazon or eBay. Just measure the size and then glue them in, and you could have more characters. You could have 3 on each of these arms, 1 here and 1 here, and then of course you have these inner ones that spin. So takes just a minute for the hot glue to get hot. So I'm just going to use this to hold this in place for the moment. And while it's getting hot, we're going to pop in the remaining 2 screws. And make sure they're all good. Now if you do this, you can make the wires shorter. I usually don't, because there's plenty of room in a lot of these pieces to coil the wires and tack them down with glue. But your speaker in this one, since we're waiting for the glue gun, is an 8 ohm 2 watt. Most of the speakers are half watt. I found a lot of the Christmas pieces that have more movement or they're bigger come with a bigger speaker and a better quality speaker, probably to transmit the Christmas sound. The gray and red here, if you follow the loop, is your speaker to unplug it. This is your off-on volume switch. This red and black one is your power. This red and black one to the left is your motor, and then this green and black are your lights that go up here, which probably go to a circuit board up inside as well, which distributes the power. Because, yeah, this green wire goes into this hole and then comes back out as these two. So there's probably a distribution board up inside. Probably in this larger section here where we plug it in. And then it runs up to the lights in here. And then, of course, to the lights down here, which are the magnetic for the trees. As far as the gear goes, the gears in here, this is the impossible gear, but the rest of the gears are pretty standard. These larger gears, though, if you do break them, are going to be harder to find. Mr. Christmas has very similar gears. I would check with them first, and then if not, just have to try and match the gears somewhere online. Circuit board's pretty basic. I don't understand why it has a micro switch, but it is what it is. This is one of those, because it has lights and sound, if you fry the circuit board, you're going to lose your lights and sounds, but you can always make the lights just work, and then you can also just do motion, but you'll lose your sound. So hopefully you don't lose your circuit board. So the Swan Boat Ride is an example. That one has a circuit board with a micro switch, and it just turns. It doesn't have any lights or sound. So that one you could just make the off-on switch, because it doesn't have a volume knob, just be an off-on switch where it goes around and around. But this is a resetting piece, so don't plug it into a power strip that you turn off with a master switch. Don't know why it's resetting, but it is. And eventually it could affect that blob chip. Probably most of the components are going to be on the back side, except for the capacitor. The capacitor that they use in here is generally a smoothing capacitor for the motor, so the motor noise doesn't get into the circuit and make the lights flicker or make static in the speaker. So, just waiting for the glue to cure. Takes a little bit. I'll remove the weight I'm using, and then we'll put the cover down. We'll make sure these guys work with this gear drive. We'll put the trees on to make sure they light up. Maybe I'll crack out the box and put the other 7 characters on it. Let's see what it looks like. Alright, so this hole that's up in here, hopefully you can see it, there's a little indentation for this bundle of wires. So I'm just going to help them in as I tip it. The top of this shaft has an alignment hole, and the top of the top piece. Alright, so the white wire is in, the green and black wire, they're now in, and now the red and black wire is in. So my wires are into their little cubby. I know that the track is not on, but that's fine. I just want to make sure these characters spin first. Yes. So the characters are moving back and forth, so there's nothing wrong with them. They're not bound up. Wait for it to go around. We'll lift it up. We'll put the plate back on. There we go. There we go. Nope, still hasn't dropped in. The gear isn't lining up now that I've lifted it again. So. You don't want to force them. You just want to try and wiggle it into place and move the characters to try and get the teeth to line up. All the alignments for this plate are in a line. Now what the problem is it's putting a little pressure here, which is pushing the gear just a hair out of alignment. There we go. Try and keep it squeezed together as much as possible. Get some screws started. Put the back 3 screws in, which is where the gears are. It should stay in alignment, and I can do the rest of the screws. Where's the magnet? There's magnets everywhere on this thing. There we go. I'm not going to pull all of them out. I'm just going to try and do a couple here to show you how cluttered this rink is. Probably really close to a real one. Let's turn off some lights. You can see the shadows. I'll try and tip it. Lights are working all the way around. Christmas trees are lit. I'll do a quick cell phone video at the end of this to show you how it works, but there you go. Fire up the glue gun, glue the pads back on, and it is done. So there you go, that's what it needed. This thing just needed a belt and a motor. So you saw this one's really easy to disassemble. Just remove the rubber pads, take out the 8 screws, tip the back up. Everything's right over here in this section. You can unplug the motor from this side, pull the motor out, put a new 11,440 RPM motor in, the SRF 300 CA motor, and you can tell that they're moving in the right direction. The characters aren't really backwards except for that one. I'm sure I could turn them. If it wasn't moving in the right direction, I wouldn't hit the micro switch and it would bind up. But all the characters move counterclockwise. So, yeah, that's it. Very simplistic to repair that part. If you have problems with your lighting, that's going to be a different story. So, this outer strip light, you'd have to replace with something similar. You're not going to find this OEM light. The tree is fairy lights. I'm going to turn the light back on. So this is just a fairy light string. You can see the little thin strands with the little lights. And they're colored lights, which you can get those at Christmas and then probably make it work. Because most fairy lights you buy at Christmas time are between 3 and 12 volts. Depending on which one you get. If you get one that's around 4.5 volts, which means it takes 3 AAAs or 3 AAs, or 3 Cs or Ds, you can rewrap the tree. So there are pros and things you can use. I'll turn the volume down again, so when I tip it, it's not so loud. The lights that are up inside, they are flashing RGB lights. They're probably the ones that just rotate auto, meaning they don't use a computer chip for it. Then there are 3, 4, 5 solid lights, a purple, a green, and a blue, and then 2 whites. So make it all festive and flashy. But this outer set of lights will be the hard one to replace. You can get some low voltage flat lights. They're not going to look the same, and they probably won't go red, green, yellow all the way around. But you can still replace with something like these fairy lights as an example. And just hot glue them, because this is double back stick LED light strip. So other than that, that's it. That was the Lemax Christmas Grove skating rink. How to disassemble it, replace your motor, and replace your belt. I'll have a link to the motors and belts below. Motors come from Amazon. I get my belt kits from Skull Crane, so they'll be linked accordingly. Any questions, concerns, so on and so forth, drop them below or send us an email. Thanks for watching.